A staircase that leads nowhere it used to. A subway that fell out of the sky. A city of 22 million people built on a lake that isn't there anymore. What if I told you the ground under one of the biggest cities on Earth is disappearing, not slowly, but by the foot, every year? In 1910, Mexico City unveiled a golden angel on top of a marble column to celebrate 100 years of independence. You can still visit her today, but to reach her, you now have to climb 14 extra steps that weren't there when she was built. The angel didn't get taller. The city sank around her. I'm Engineer Bill, and today, we're going to talk about a city that is quite literally drowning in its own drought. So grab your coffee and let's begin. Right now, parts of Mexico City are sinking up to 50 centimeters a year. That's not a typo. That's not over a decade. That's one single year. For comparison, Venice, the city everyone worries about sinking, moves about 2 millimeters a year. In 2021, a metro overpass on Line 12 collapsed under a train. More than 20 people didn't make it home that night. The official investigation pointed to something the city has been quietly fighting for over a century: uneven ground, sinking at different speeds under the same structure, until the structure simply couldn't take it anymore. And this is where it gets genuinely strange, because this isn't really a story about bad construction. It's a story about a mistake made 500 years ago that the city has never been able to undo. So let's go back to the beginning, because you need to understand what used to be here. In 1325, the Aztecs founded their capital, Tenochtitlan, on a small island in the middle of a lake, Lake Texcoco. They didn't fight the water, they built with it. Dikes, canals, floating gardens, an entire city engineered around the idea that the lake was permanent. Then, in 1521, Spanish conquistadors destroyed Tenochtitlan, and instead of keeping what worked, they made a decision that would define this valley for the next 5 centuries: drain the lake and build a European-style city on top of it. They started digging canals to empty Lake Texcoco. By the 1600s, they'd built the Nochistongo Canal. By the late 1800s, the Grand Canal and a tunnel system were draining the valley almost entirely by gravity. The lake that Tenochtitlan was built to live with was now gone. What was left behind was clay, lakebed clay, so saturated with water that some samples hold up to 5 times their own weight in it. Soft, compressible, never meant to hold up a city. For a while, that didn't seem to matter. The city grew anyway. By the 20th century, millions of people needed water to drink, and the lake that used to supply it was gone. So engineers did the only thing left. They started pumping it from underground, from the aquifer, sitting right below that soft, saturated clay. In 1947, a scientist named Nabor Carrillo looked at the data and connected the dots nobody wanted to connect. The more water they pumped out from under the city, the more the city sank. Pull water out of saturated clay, and the clay compresses permanently. It doesn't refill like a sponge. It collapses like a deflating mattress, and it stays that way. The city had been drinking the ground out from under itself. By the middle of the 20th century, some parts of downtown Mexico City had already sunk nearly 40 feet compared to 100 years earlier. Streets buckled, old colonial buildings tilted. Some sank so unevenly you can still see doorways today that don't line up with the floor anymore. And here's the part I genuinely respect. In the 1950s, engineers had to figure out how to build a skyscraper, the Torre Latinoamericana, on ground this unstable. Their solution? 361 concrete piles driven 33 meters down past the soft clay into firmer soil. A flexible steel frame that could sway instead of crack. That tower has survived earthquakes in 1957, 1985, and 2017 completely undamaged, while buildings around it, built the normal way, came down. It's proof the ground can be beaten. At a price. But most of the city wasn't built like that tower. Most of the city was built the normal way, and the sinking never stopped. Here's where the loop closes into something worse. The city's entire drainage system, the sewage, the stormwater, all of it, was originally designed to flow out by gravity downhill out of the valley. But if the ground sinks unevenly, downhill stops being a fixed direction. The Grand Canal, the city's main sewage line, has sunk so much in places that it lost its original slope. Water that used to flow out on its own now has to be pushed out, with pumps constantly running, because if they stop, sewage flows backward into a city of 22 million people. So they built a new solution, the Túnel Emisor Oriente, 62 kilometers of tunnel, built deep enough to escape the sinking just to keep doing what gravity used to do for free. And that brings us back to where we started, the angel with 14 extra steps. Because here's the cycle nobody can seem to break. The city needs water, so it pumps the aquifer. Pumping the aquifer sinks the ground. Sinking the ground cracks the pipes carrying that water. Right now, up to 40% of the water pumped into this city's pipes never reaches a single tap. It leaks straight back into the broken ground before it gets there. The city is losing the very water it's destroying itself to get. So, real talk, comment below. If you found out the ground under your house was sinking half a meter a year, would you stay? Would you fight it the way this city has for 500 years? Let me know. And if this kind of thing fascinates you, subscribe. Bill's got a lot more foundations to dig into. Mexico City isn't sinking because of one mistake. It's sinking because of a 500-year-old decision that nobody's been able to fully undo. Only manage, tunnel by tunnel, pile by pile. The next case is already under construction. And trust me, it's a lot more dangerous than a staircase.